Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching ninth and final part of What If Naruto Was Fallen Emperor of Outworld. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
District of the Uchiha clan. Sakura could see the flames of war all around her, as they seemed to encircle the entire area where the Uchiha clan once ruled. There was now only one remaining, and he was fighting the enemy at Konoha's walls. Sasuke had ordered her to stay here so that the Uchiha clan district would not be lost and the clan's legacy would live on long after the fighting was over. And, like any good obedient woman, Sakura obeyed without question when it came to Sasuke. Even when an Anbu arrived on Tsunade's orders to leave and go to the hospital to help heal those who had been brought in, Sakura ignored the order in favor of following Sasuke's. Sasuke House Kuns will be fine. I'll make sure of it, Sakura said, but she was scared and worried that the enemy would come here if they hadn't already. So you're the Uchiha's submissive bitch for a woman, Karen observed, emerging from the shadows and staring at the pink-haired Kunoichi. What did you say? Sakura demanded angrily. You heard me, bitch. You have insulted my lord and master with your previous actions, and as such, he has ordered your death, which I will carry out, Karen said before pulling out a pair of kunai, one in each hand, and glaring at Sakura, who was taking a step back before pulling out a kunai as well. So one of the Baka's sluts has come to fight me. Don't you know who I am? I am Uchiha Sasuke's woman. You're just a knight in bed to him. Sasuke-kun treats me like a queen and a true woman, Sakura boasted, Karen looking her in the eyes. You're lying. I have the ability to sense emotions as well as chakra, and while you're generating a sense of happiness about your status with the Uchiha, you're also generating some negative emotions about your nights with him and how he treats you like a true woman, remarked Karen, while Sakura reacted angrily. Bitch! Exclaimed Sakura before charging at Karen, but the red-headed Uzumaki was unfazed and held her ground. Karen was clearly the better fighter, as Sakura spent her days acting like a civilian rather than a shinobi. She trained every now and then, but her skills were barely chunin due to her lack of consistent shinobi workouts. Karen had been training since she was first placed in Orochimaru's service, and she continued to train after Shao Kahn took over when she was brought into his service. Karen was easily ranked as a Junin and possessed the skills to match, thanks to Mito's additional training in the various Uzumaki arts she knew from her time. It was not a competition between the two. You are so weak it's pathetic. I could have beaten you easily years ago, Karen mocked as she landed a hard kick to the side of Sakura's head, followed by a sweep kick that tripped the woman. Shut up. I'm Sasuke woman. Kun's the one who will help him restore the Uchiha clan to its proper place in the world. You should be groveling at my feet, begging me for forgiveness. Exclaimed Sakura before Karen scowled and kicked her hard in the face. I've had enough of you. It's always, Sasuke-kun this and Sasuke-kun that, from someone interested in him. First, it was Orochimaru, and now it's you. One of his devoted fangirls, who would spread her legs for him in public if he gave the order, Karen remarked as she approached Sakura's downed form. As if you don't care about that demon Baka you call a master. Sakura countered, smirking. First, while I wouldn't mind if Shao Kahn-sama gave me such an order, we have yet to do so. Second, he is not a Baka. That's your label for him. One you gave my lord to mask your own insecurities and weaknesses, Karen said, Sakura scowling at her and spitting blood. We'll see how confident you are when Sasuke-kun kills that Baka and hangs his head on a pike for all to see, Sakura said with a small smirk. Funny you should say that because from what I sensed with my sensory abilities. Your oh so precious Sasuke life Kuns just got sucked the fuck out, Karen said, Sakura's eyes widening in shock, horror, and anger. You lie. Sakura exclaimed, but was silenced when Karen threw one of her kunai at her leg. Censors in the Uzumaki clan are second to none. I don't have to lie about this, Karen said as she tossed the other kunai at the woman's right shoulder. I'm going to kill you and show you why. I am Sasuke Kun's woman, Sakura said before collapsing. Dumb bimbo. She had no idea those two kunai were both laced with a powerful sedative. I'm just lucky and glad she wasn't with a bun in the oven, Karen remarked before pulling out a third and kneeling down to place the blade at Sakura's throat. And slashed the woman's neck before leaving the pink-haired kunoichi to die alone. Orphanage of Konoha. Remember, no one gets through here, and Danzo-sama wants this orphanage protected at all costs, Sai instructed the other root shinobi surrounding him. Danzo-sama had made it clear that the main source of recruitment within Konoha for root shinobi was Danzo-sama. War caused Konoha shinobi to die on missions, whether at the hands of the enemy or as a result of an accident caused by a fellow leaf shinobi. When this happens, the children end up in an orphanage where the matron has orders to monitor each of the children and their potential to be shinobi. The matron would supply a root operative arriving under the guise of an adult looking to adopt a child or a generous donor to receive the report before it arrived in Danzo's hands. Following that, those chosen from the report would be adopted by various root shinobi and brought to Danzo for conditioning. I know they say poisonous fruit only comes from a poisonous tree, but in reality such a poisonous tree is only like that when the roots themselves are poisonous, remarked an amused Suigetsu as he sprayed a thick coat of mist around the orphanage. Identify yourself! Exclaimed Sai, as a chuckle from Suigetsu echoed through the mist. Why? You're going to die like your friends in the next few seconds, Suigetsu observed as the mist cleared, revealing 10 root shinobi dead behind him. Impossible. I didn't hear anything while I was surrounded by mist. This man is from Kiri, Sai thought before drawing some ink animals to aid him. Shton. Hash cry. Exclaimed Gurren, launching her crystal dragon at Sai, who attempted to flee, but Suigetsu flanked him on the right and severed the pale boy's legs below the knee. Sai didn't even have a chance to scream before the dragon descended on him and instantly killed the root shinobi. I just love cutting things up. It makes me feel all good inside, Suigetsu explained, as he had been having a great time since being assigned to Shao Kahn's service and cutting people up. Suigetsu had just returned from a small ramen stand, where he had the honor of introducing the family there to the business end of their own kitchen knives. The swordsman then slashed the building in half with a single swing, leaving the bleeding family members to die within the confines of their business. Granted, his boss had directed him to go after the orphanage first, but the two were planning to go to a shelter nearby. You had to take what you could and run with it at times. Tell it to someone who cares, Suigetsu, Gurren said before launching another crystal dragon into the orphanage and killing everyone inside. Everyone, that is, except the matron, who was crawling out of the building in a broken bloody mess that indicated she was in a lot of pain. Any last words before I catch off your ugly-looking ass for a head, bitch? Suigetsu asked, his sword ready to kill the matron with a single swing. May you rot in hell with your demon master, Konoha's will of fire is forever eternal, exclaimed the matron, scoffing at Suigetsu. Will of fire? Look around you, lady. We just snuffed your precious will of fire right the fuck out. And as for hell? From what we heard you did to the boss when he was just a boy fighting to survive. You've earned yourself a nice little seat at the table where all the demons come to feast on human flesh. If I do see you there, I won't be the one who gets eaten, but rather all. How nice to hear, Gurren said as Suigetsu placed the sword on his back and looked at her. Hey. If I'm going to kill someone, I'm going to get the last word in, Suigetsu said before leaving to continue their mission of killing Konoha shinobi elsewhere. Hokage Memorial. Kushina heard and sensed him coming long before he was seen at the top of the step, stained in blood, his eyes purple with a red tint outline. She noticed his eyes were Rinnegan, and she wondered where he got the legendary dojutsu. While watching Konoha burn all around her, the son she had neglected, abandoned, and attempted to kill approached the Uzumaki woman slowly. She turned to face him, seeing his mighty form grow larger with each step closer to her, and the bloodlust in his eyes. "Hello, mother. We're back for the first time in many years." "You look well," Shao Kahn replied, with Kushina looking at him and nodding before surprising him and bowing slightly with a smile on her face as if welcoming him home. "That is my son." "I'm glad you're home," Kushina replied sweetly, Shao Kahn looking perplexed yet amused by her sudden change in attitude. "So you've finally seen reason and accepted me as your son," Shao Kahn remarked, as Kushina nodded and bowed slightly in front of him. "I was wrong to shun you. I was wrong to hate you. It was all Minato's fault." Kun's after the ceiling was finished, he suggested we leave you here to be molded and controlled in a way that would secure a powerful yet submissive weapon for the village, Kushina explained, Shao Kahn narrowing his eyes at her. "All these years you've hated me. Opposed my existence. Letting me live just to be a weapon to be discarded whenever you, Father, Jiraiya, Hiruzen, and Konoha in general wished. And now? Now you want to embrace me as your son? To forge new bonds with family and forget the past events leading up to this ever happened?" Shao Kahn asked, moving closer to the woman and clenching his hands tightly. "I don't want to fight you anymore. It's pointless. I was wrong to do what I did," Kushina said quietly, her head bowed, and Shao Kahn's fists tightening before uppercutting her right in the face, sending her flying backward until she stopped skidding when she hit the ground. "I'm making it a point now, my mother," Shao Kahn said before walking up to the downed woman, picking her up, and staring her down. "Please, Naruto. We're family. Members of the Uzumaki clan," Kushina pleaded as she noticed his eyes narrowing in anger at her. "Your pitiful attempt to contact me through family ties is nothing more than a waste of your time," Shao Kahn said before punching her in the face, followed by a backhand, then a front, and finally a backhand again before throwing Kushina into the air. And she landed hard on the ground, spitting up dirt. "Naruto," Kushina murmured, struggling to stand from the blows to the head as Shao Kahn approached her with his wrath hammer in hand. Each hit unknowingly delivered images of her son's life, pain, and suffering directly into the woman's mind. How he suffered in Konoha as a child, and how she made him suffer through her betrayals. Because each image was in first person, it had greatly influenced Kushina's mental state, making her feel as if she were the one suffering. Kushina could see herself in these moments, the many different memories of when she mocked her son, and how it now appeared to the woman as if it was happening to her. That she was on the receiving end of her own actions, as she saw her husband Minato and the others who had hurt Naruto appear in the same mocking manner. It made Kushina feel sick. You pose as a grieving mother seeking forgiveness for past sins committed against your only son, but in reality you are just another liar, seeking to use any means available to avoid being punished by the very child turned fully grown man whom you wronged in life, Shao Kahn added before pressing his massive foot against Kushina's back. Hard. "Ah!" screamed Kushina, feeling the pain in her back from the force of the blow, and attempting to press against it without success. "Can you feel it, mother? Death closing in on Konoha? The lives lost in the leaf. The people killed. The prophecy of this realm is finally coming true. It is the end of all things. For you, Konoha, and the shinobi system itself," declared Shao Kahn as he looked down at the fighting below and felt the rush of power roaring inside his body spilling out for all to see if they looked up. "Naruto, please stop," I'm sorry," pleaded Kushina before being picked up and looking into her son's Rinnegan eyes. Your husband, and everyone else in this village saw to it that Uzumaki Naruto is no longer," Shao Kahn replied before throwing her again, this time landing right on the spot where the Yondaime Hokage's head was. The ages wasted in siding with the wrong people for all the wrong reasons. Betraying everything Uzumaki Mito taught you and the Uzumaki clan in general for selfish reasons. It is time to end your miserable existence once and for all. The souls of the entire Uzumaki clan have spoken. You must die," declared Shao Kahn as he stood in front of Kushina. "Yes. I must die," Kushina said, tears streaming down her cheeks as she saw the man who was her son stare down at her with the sage's eyes. "Goodbye, Kushina. Goodbye, my one and only mother." "As your world ends," Shao Kahn replied before letting out a war cry and moving to strike her down with his wrath hammer. Only to have chakra chains wrap around his arms stop him. "I won't let you hurt my mother." "Our mother," exclaimed Naruto, as Shao Kahn laughed and turned slightly to face the girl. "So the daughter of fools decides to appear. Come to fight me? Or die with the rest of the trash in this village?" Shao Kahn asked, breaking the chains that were wrapped around his arms, much to Naruto's surprise. "I don't want to, but I will fight you, brother," Naruto replied as Shao Kahn laughed. "I'm not your brother. Not anymore. Your parents took care of that years ago, remember?" Mocked Shao Kahn, as Naruto looked behind him and saw the woman flinch. "I know, but look at Mom. She's sorry. I'm sorry. Can't you let us back into your life? Can't you forgive us?" Naruto asked, Shao Kahn frowning. "No, there is no forgiveness between us. Only pain. Only blood spilled. Only death," exclaimed Shao Kahn, as Naruto looked at him in sadness and pity. "She has no right to look at him like that. I see. It looks like I have no choice. I originally wanted to fight you to see which of us was the stronger sibling, to prove that I was the stronger sibling in order to put such doubt to rest," remarked Naruto as she drew her sword, and Shao Kahn grinned. "The madness will stop only when you and that woman behind us are dead, so fight me and let's see if you can stop the madness and rage in my heart," Shao Kahn replied before charging her with incredible speed. Naruto barely saw it, but she dodged the attack and slashed at his arm with her sword. The blade, however, struck his armor, leaving the kunoichi vulnerable to a punch to the face. Naruto flew back, but landed on her feet, skidding and steadying herself with her sword. "Kaiten. Jikaki no Jutsu," exclaimed Naruto, taking a deep breath and shooting a massive fireball from her mouth at Shao Kahn. Suiriden no Jutsu," countered Shao Kahn before his attack manifested itself and launched directly at the giant ball of fire, which created a large heavy mist upon impact. "I know you despise me, brother. Because you were denied love. How much you despise our mother. I know you're filled with rage. With anguish. But will killing us truly remove it? Or will it aggravate the situation?" As her voice echoed through the mist, Naruto inquired. "I'm not sure, dear sister. Let's figure it out together," Shao Kahn exclaimed as he sensed her behind him and swung his wrath hammer at her, the strike hitting her dead on in the face. Only to poof to prove she was a shadow clone. "Stop. Both of you stop," Kushina said as she saw Naruto appear to Shao Kahn's right and launch her chakra chains at him once more. "I sincerely apologize, brother. But the only way to stop your madness from progressing too far is to kill you," Naruto said as she charged at her struggling brother. The power behind the chakra chains increased to prevent him from breaking them. "Are you sorry? You have no idea what the word means," exclaimed Shao Kahn, breaking the chains at the last second, avoiding the blade aimed at his throat, and knocking Naruto back with the back of his left arm. "Stop. You two, together. Please halt." In a trance-like state, Kushina reflected on everything she had done, the lives she had betrayed, and all the events that had led up to this point. Her own children were fighting to the death right in front of her eyes. "You say you're sorry, but all I hear is empty words," said by someone who has never experienced pain, exclaimed Shao Kahn as he threw a light spear right at Naruto, who dodged it, then 3 more before being hit hard by a shoulder tackle. "I need to put a stop to them. I need to stop them right now," Kushina said quietly as she rose from the ground and saw her son holding Naruto down with his wrath hammer poised to fall on her head. No pity. That was the policy of Konoha at the start. So, in the end, that will be my policy. Goodbye, Naruto, Shao Kahn said before raising his wrath hammer over his head to destroy his sister. To prevent the swing, Kushina shoots her chakra chains out of her body and wraps them around Shao Kahn's arms. "I'm not going to let you destroy your family, Naruto. I will not allow you to become like me. I know your rage is not entirely your own. Kurama's rage is in there as well," Kushina said, while Shao Kahn looked enraged at being denied his heart's desire twice. "Even now, you dare to make decisions for me." "Some things never change," Shao Kahn snarled before discovering another pair of chakra chains wrapped around him from Naruto. "We harmed you. We sincerely apologize. We can relieve your pain, but only if you let us in." "Please let us in, brother," pleaded Naruto as Shao Kahn fought back. "When you're dead, you can take away the pain." Shao Kahn yelled angrily before severing Naruto's chakra chains and kicking her away. "Stop, Naruto," pleaded Kushina, but her words were lost on him as he let go of his wrath hammer to grab the chakra chains that held his arms. "Naruto is no longer alive. Because of you, I'm dead. My name is Shao Kahn. And I'm your demise," Shao Kahn said as he drew her towards him and grabbed the woman's throat. "Naruto. I know you're in there somewhere. I know we harmed you, son. I see what you mean now. I'd like to start over. Begin again. To be the family you've always desired. Please, Naruto," pleaded Kushina as Shao Kahn's eyes narrowed in rage, the glowing optics brimming with rage. "I've despised you for as long as I can remember. For over 1,000 years, I've despised you, father, Naruto, and pretty much everyone else in Konoha. More than 1,000 years. Do you really expect me to let that go?" demanded Shao Kahn, Kushina's eyes welling up. "There is no Naruto. But I don't expect you to abandon your hatred at the drop of a hat. It would be foolish of me to ask you to do something like that. What I'm asking for Naruto is a chance to help alleviate his pain and hatred. That is something I can do for as long as you allow me to live. I can assist you, as I should have done from the start, rather than following your father's and Konoha's lead. I know you may think it's too late for me to help you now, but if you just give me this one chance, Naruto, I promise you I'll be the mother you've always wanted. The one you were always looking for. Naruto, please. Give me a chance to prove myself," Kushina pleaded, his eyes filled with conflict as one part of him clearly wanted to rip her into tiny pieces while the other wanted to give the woman a chance. If only to see if she would break her promise before breaking her own. There's only one chance. You break your promise. Shao Kahn threatened, with Kushina nodding. "I know. However, I am an Uzumaki. I may not have acted like one in your eyes, Naruto, but I have yet to break a promise," Kushina said, Shao Kahn narrowing his eyes at her before letting the woman go as his power returned to his body. You will hand yourself into my custody. Naruto is the same way. No arguments, Shao Kahn said, and Kushina nodded. I understand, Kushina said before retracting his chakra chains around Naruto. Shao Kahn, sir? As Hashirama, his wife Mito, and Tobirama arrived to find both targets alive, he asked. They are my detainees. In Wave Country, I'll deal with them later. I trust you will keep an eye on both Kushina and Naruto while I handle everything else, Shao Kahn said, with Mito nodding and sending a glare to Kushina, who looked down at the intense look, and then at Naruto. Yes, Shao Kahn-sama, Mito said, making it clear to the two Uzumaki women that if they tried anything, she would beat them both to within an inch of their lives. Good. I'm assuming your assigned targets are no longer alive? Shao Kahn inquired, the three nodding. The only ones with recognizable bodies are Tsunade and Hiruzen, though his head currently lacks proper facial recognition, Hashirama said, nodding to Shao Kahn. Good. Gather the survivors for a final verdict. And bring the dead bodies of your targets for those same survivors to see for themselves how serious their situation is, Shao Kahn ordered, with Hashirama and Tobirama nodding before departing. Konoha Stadium several hours later. The fighting in Konoha soon ended, with survivors on the Leafs side being rounded up and brought to the stadium for judgment. There weren't many people, as the Shinobi Alliance had overpowered and overwhelmed the Konoha Shinobi despite the village's united front. The civilians were taken out of the emergency shelters, thrown into the stadium with the rest of the Shinobi captured, and being watched by Shinobi Alliance members. So far, most of these people have been sentenced to death, A said, noting that some of the Shinobi down there were from clans and that it was a shame to see such bloodlines go to waste. Most. Reikage-sama is not for everyone. Those who are spared are the very young, and they deserve a chance to redeem their families and clans, Gaara observed, while simply nodded. I'm surprised Shao Kahn saved his mother and sister here. Are you certain they will not try anything? Tsuchikage inquired, his gaze fixed on Shao Kahn. Naruto isn't going to do anything. As for Kushina, she promised me, Shao Kahn replied, as if it were that simple. And you think she'll keep it? As Shao Kahn's eyes turned to her, Mei shivered in fear and lust. My mother belongs to the Uzumaki clan. What does that imply? Shao Kahn replied, while Mei simply nodded in agreement before they returned to deciding who would live and who would die. You have a lot of nerve judging us, Kaharu said as she was dragged here by some Iwa Anbu, with Homura right beside her, both of them looking battered from the fighting. You'd think they were joined at the hip, Shao Kahn remarked, amused, because he had seen them many times walking side by side together. Really? Given your perversity in twisting the will of fire, I believe we have every right to judge you, my former students. Kaharu scowled even more, and Homura did the same, said Hashirama. We completed the necessary tasks. The will of fire is intended to purge the world of anyone who is unworthy of its touch. Homura said this while neither Hashirama nor Tobirama were pleased. Which in your mind is everyone who isn't from Konoha, Tobirama remarked, as Kaharu looked in his direction. Konoha was supposed to be a shining beacon for all to see. The only guiding light worth following. Every other shinobi village should have been destroyed with the Biju in the Senju clan's possession, but Hashirama shared them with the world to promote peace and balance in the hopes that we could all unite. Bah. With him as the cage of fools, it's a fool's dream. Kaharu said sharply, while Tobirama looked angry and his brother said nothing. When Tobirama looked at him, he asked, Hashirama. No. She's correct, brother. I was a moron, Hashirama replied, while Kaharu smirked and the cages looked surprised. Only Shao Kahn remained silent. "Brother?" Tobirama inquired as he noticed his Hashirama shaking slightly in silent rage. "I was a fool to believe that our dream would continue to live on through others after we died. I was a fool to entrust my dream to the likes of these power-hungry jerks. Power-hungry idiots who would kill their own children and their children's children just to sit in power," Hashirama added, while Koharu and Homura frowned at being labeled as idiots. "The only thing that matters is power. Perhaps if you had realized that, Madara would have feared you less and not fled Konoha," Homura remarked before being impaled from behind by a tree branch. "Don't say anything bad about him. Madara may have gone insane as a result of everything that had happened, but Konoha drove him to it. Even back then, people feared Madara, including my own brother, but I was always his friend, his rival in the shinobi arts, and despite his insanity, there was always respect. That was the most important thing." Hashirama said this while commanding the tree branch to whip its body into the people below. "Why did you murder Homura? He was your student as well as my teammate. To think that the great Senju Hashirama has been reduced to the same level as that monster in the middle of you two," Koharu said bitterly before the compressed ball of water Tobirama launched at the woman ripped a hole in her chest. "Who is the more powerful monster, Koharu-san? The monster you despise? Or the one who creates the monster and despises it regardless of its success?" Tobirama inquired as he watched the woman collapse and die. "May I ask you a question, Shao Kahn-sama?" Shao Kahn looked at the man with a raised but hidden eyebrow. "What?" Shao Kahn asked, seeing the Raikage's gaze shift to the Hyuga clan members who had not been killed. "What will become of the Hyuga clan? Surely, some will be spared?" questioned A, who was looking at them with interest and wanted some of the Kumo clan. "The Hyuga clan will be split in two. Kumo will receive half of the proceeds. Wave will receive the other half. Hyuga Hiyashi is available," Shao Kahn responded with a slight frown. "He's a little too old for my tastes. I was hoping for someone younger and far more skilled in gentle fist with strong Byakugan eyes, but I was disappointed," I proposed with Shao Kahn knowing what he desired. "Hanabi Hyuga Hinata's younger sister." "No. Hyuga Hanabi will accompany me back to Wave with her sister. Hiyashi may be old, but he knows gentle fist and the Byakugan he possesses has not weakened. Besides, his body is still young, so using him as a stud shouldn't be a problem, and I'm sure some of the other male Hyuga clan members won't be a problem either," Shao Kahn grumbled as he spoke. "I suppose so. Still, the cage bird seal will be difficult to remove before the remaining members of their main family use it," I commented before Shao Kahn smirked at him. "That's already taken care of." When the branch family was brought in, Mito created a seal to neutralize the Cade bird seal and began using it on them. When their clan compound was attacked, some of them were having their seals activated by the main family, but Hinata prevented the branch family from being killed, Shao Kahn responded, with a now looking more upbeat. "That is something to think about. I don't mind dividing the Hyuga clan as long as I don't have to deal with that dreaded seal," Shao Kahn smirked as I spoke. "How about the Abarames? I could use a clan like this in Iwa to help one of my own in my village evolve," Shao Kahn nodded as Tsuchikage spoke. "The same as Kumo. Half goes to you. In Wave Country, half to me. You can have the clan head, and I can have his son, while the rest are split evenly," Shao Kahn remarked, with the Tsuchikage grunting. While they were negotiating who would keep which clan, Shao Kahn focused on the next two people who were brought before them, Sarutobi Asuma and his wife Kurenai. Both glared with hatred at Shao Kahn, but the giant demonic entity had seen worse, and had given as well as received in his time. Baki, Asuna Shinobi, had his hand on the shoulder of what appeared to be a 9-year-old child not far from them. Shao Kahn recognized the child right away and knew deep down that the boy's parents were terrified of what this gang of cages and one daimyo would do to their only child. Hirazen's son. I see the similarity, Hashirama remarked, while Tobirama only grunted. How can you support him? He's a demon. A twisted beast. Who knows how many concubines he's taken into his bed. Kurenai protested in the hopes of swaying the cages against Shao Kahn. What Shao Kahn does in his own castle with whoever is in his bed is unimportant to us as long as it does not endanger our shinobi villages. According to what has already been discussed in our future plans for long-term peace, such an issue will not arise anytime soon, Gaara said as the Mizukage tried to keep her face from matching the color of her hair since being in that bed with Shao Kahn. And when it came to their time together in it, he was a beast. He is, however, a demon. A demon should not be trusted. You must be aware of this. You don't trust your Jinchuriki, and they don't either. Asuma added before being hit by Gaara's giant sand fist. Do I have to remind you that I am a Jinchuriki? For a while, I was a monster. I did cause harm to others. People were killed. But I was forced into it by my father's desire to turn me into a weapon of war, while the entire village despised my very existence. It took me years to prove that I was not the person they thought I was, and I was rewarded for my efforts with a village that loves me and my own siblings who support me. My former sensei Baki has been one of my most trusted advisors over there, and I trust him with my life, Gaara stated firmly as he observed the leaf shinobi he had just struck struggle to breathe due to the blow to the torso. What to do with them now is the question. Assassinate one of them? Are they both? What about their child? Kurenai and Asuma were both worried as they looked at their nervous son when they asked the Tsuchikage. Asuma will be transferred to Suna's shinobi prison. Kurenai will be delivered to the one in Wave Country that I had commissioned specifically for this purpose, Shao Kahn replied, and the cages nodded. And the boy? Inquired, knowing that he might want the Sarutobi bloodline in Kumo one day. He will live in Wave Country with his cousin Sarutobi Konohamaru under watchful eyes, but he will also be forbidden from seeing his mother. Forever. Stated Shao Kahn, as both parents looked shocked and horrified, and the child looked devastated. Are you certain it has to last forever? It appears to be a little harsh on the child, remarked Gaara as Shao Kahn pondered it while looking at the boy who clearly adored his parents. Gaara, I suppose you have a point. Excellent work. He can see his mother, but he can only see her once every 3 months. Shao Kahn declared, with the news being slightly less devastating to Kurenai and her son less saddened by the decision. After their trial, the three were taken away before the Inuzuka clan, including clan head Sume and her 2 children, were brought up. All 3 were brought to kneel at the feet of their conquerors, each Inuzuka staring at Shao Kahn and wishing to break free from their binds so they could rip out his throat. We should have killed you when we had the chance after the sealing, Sume said, and Shao Kahn laughed. And what if the fox escapes? You are well aware that I was not a Kyuubi disguised as a human. Your husband was also aware. What a pity what happened to him all those years ago. At your hands, Shao Kahn remarked, Hana and Kiba looking at her with curious eyes, while Sume glared even harder. What is he on about, Mom? You said Dad died at the hands of the demon. Hana wondered the same thing as Kiba. Shao Kahn's grin widened. You didn't realize? It appears that your mother has withheld information from you. Truth buried, knowing that if it was ever revealed, it might change your entire perception of me. Shao Kahn snarled at Sume and moved to rush him, but Killer Bee held him firmly in place. What is he talking about, Mom? Kiba inquired, while Sume remained silent. Kiba, your father never died at my hands. He was murdered by your mother. The Sandaime Hokage himself approved of it, Shao Kahn responded, leaving Hana and Kiba stunned. Isn't that correct? Hana inquired when she noticed her mother's refusal to deny it. Yes. That is correct, Sume finally spoke up. Why? Kiba inquired, smirking even more. Because he refused to go along with the pack's treatment of me and how the village thought I should be treated. He recognized me as a person. Your mother saw me as a chew toy for the clan to use whenever they felt like hunting, and the animal of choice for that hunt was a fox, Sume growled in response to Shao Kahn. He should have stayed with the rest of the pack. Instead, he chose to see you as a human being. He was causing us problems. For me. I wasn't about to let my husband mess with Konoha's future just because his views on the demon differed from everyone else's. Sume and Shao Kahn, both of the woman's progeny, were stunned to hear this. But why would you lie about it? Why don't you tell us the truth? Shao Kahn scoffingly asked Kiba. Because she didn't want the truth to make the man a martyr. She didn't want to risk the truth causing others to wonder if there was more to me than the label of Jinchuriki. While the woman snarled, Shao Kahn responded for Sume. You were a tool. A pet. We are slaves to our desires. You shouldn't have been able to get away from your leash. Shao Kahn's eyes narrowed as Sume commented. And you should have been put down years ago, Sume, like the rabid dog that you are. Don't think I haven't forgotten your actions on my 9th birthday, when you gave orders to that one-eyed mongrel who bit into my side. I was in the hospital for weeks, my body gradually regenerating the loss of flesh with no anesthetic because the doctors and nurses didn't think I deserved it. Was that one-eyed dog of yours killed in the midst of all the fighting? Shao Kahn inquired, seeing Yugito nod, as she was the one who had to deal with all 3 members of the Inuzuka clan kneeling at his feet. I was burned alive. That was my personal responsibility. Shao Kahn's smile widened as Yugito replied with a smirk. Excellent. That was a fitting end for such a dog. Sume suddenly charged forward, her rage getting the best of her, and it was clear she intended to rip his throat out with her teeth since her arms were bound, remarked Shao Kahn. Die, you bastard! Exclaimed Sume, intending to avenge her fallen canine companion. First and foremost, you. Rasengan. Shao Kahn said this as he easily formed the object in his hand and shoved it into Sume, who exploded violently seconds later in front of her children. Mom. No. Exclaimed Kiba, while Hana was taken aback by what she had just witnessed. Fatality, Shao Kahn remarked as Kiba turned red and attempted to rush the demonic warrior in the same way his mother had. Only to be defeated by Yugito's claw-like nails and Killer Bee, who now has his swords around Hana's neck to ensure she doesn't get the same idea. Take it easy, doggy. There's no need to be froggy, B rapped, with a groaning at his brother's rapping. What do we do with her? Gaara asked, Hana looking broken inside due to the news she was denied as a child, as well as the deaths of both her mother and brother. That's a good question. What are we going to do with you? Inuzuka Hana? Shao Kahn reached down, cupped her chin, and forced the woman to look him in the eyes. My lord, have mercy. Show compassion, Hana pleaded in a whimpering tone, while Yugito made a cat-like sound a feline would make when confronted with another animal it didn't like. Mercy? And what do you regard as merciful? Shao Kahn inquired, Hana's gaze still fixed on those commanding eyes. To reside in your house? To assist you. If you want, I could be your concubine. Yugito, who had a look that could melt steel, offered Hana. Doesn't he already have enough women? Grumbled as he noticed Yugito rejecting Hana's offer. Very good. You will also be the new Inuzuka clan head in Wave Country. You will be my clan's eyes and ears. Shao Kahn gave the order, and Hana nodded. I will not let you down, Shao Kahn-sama, Hana said submissively. I'm sure you won't. Take her away, please, Shao Kahn gave the order before B took the woman away. Rock Lee and Maeda Gai were slain in battle by Jugo, Gaara observed, noting the two odd taijutsu specialists were no longer among the living. I know. I gave him the order to kill them. He wanted to avenge his friend Kaguya Kimimaro's death. When we were attempting to retrieve the Uchiha, you fought him, Shao Kahn responded as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Here is the report you requested from the hospital, my lord, Gurren said as she noticed Shao Kahn going over Karen's findings and checking to see if there were any Uchiha in the hospital. Are you certain this is correct? Shao Kahn asked, and Gurren nodded. Karen double-checked it. The Uchiha's sperm was apparently ineffective. As a result of your battle with him in the Valley of the End years ago, said Gurren, smirking at Shao Kahn. You mean the Uchiha was? Tsuchikage asked, with Gurren nodding. Sterile. He was almost shooting blanks. His chances of having a child were slim to none. With a preference for the latter, Shao Kahn laughed as he responded to Gurren. After all, I didn't even need to kill him to bring the Uchiha bloodline to an end. Time would have done it for me, Shao Kahn commented as he reviewed the report and saw that everything was in order. There's also the matter of Tsunade's first apprentice, Kato Shizune, Gurren added, as Shao Kahn frowned. Wasn't she in the hospital? What happened to Shizune? Shao Kahn was perplexed. Being detained by Conan and under the watchful eye of several AIM Anbu as well, Gurren replied, while Shao Kahn pondered the situation. She will be sent to prison in AIM and will spend the rest of her life there, Shao Kahn replied, with Gurren nodding before leaving to inform Conan. After that, the group began to sentence civilians and shinobi alike to whatever they thought was appropriate. Years later. Epilogue. It had been many years since Shao Kahn had defeated his previous enemies as well as his own internal demons that filled his mind with rage. He had absorbed Spring Country, Wind Country, Water Country, Earth Country, and Waterfall Country and was now the ruler of a vast empire. Each country absorbed the will of the people living in each country, seeing Shao Kahn as a great leader, and declared him emperor through arranged marriages. Whirlpool was also brought into the empire, but it was transformed into a place where people went to be exiled, and you were left there until the emperor decided you were ready to return. So far, only Uzumaki Kushina has held that unenviable distinction. That was her punishment when they returned to Wave Country after a year. Many people were surprised, because Kushina's presence made Shao Kahn's ability to deal with the pain difficult, and she was a constant reminder of his pain. Kushina had, of course, tried to assist him, even offering to be his punching bag for a sparring partner to help him get his rage out. He, however, refused. Instead, Shao Kahn decided that his mother should be exiled to Whirlpool, where she could walk among the ruins of her homeland and see what she had betrayed aside from her only son. Kushina recognized his logic and accepted it without complaint. Shao Kahn would pay her visits at the small home she had built for herself among the ruins where her clan had once lived. It was more of a test of his ability to control his rage and see if he could tolerate the woman's presence after a while. Shao Kahn did not harm Naruto because her own involvement in his life's suffering was non-existent. Some thought she should be punished for siding with Konoha for so long and not rising to support him during the war. However, the daimyo of Wave felt it would be better for his sister to prove her worth as the first Shoden Namikage of his shinobi village in Wave Country. Many speculated that the order was issued due to a perverse sense of justice because it sounded similar to the name Namikaze. Only Shao Kahn knew whether he did it as a form of retaliation against his father. Shao Kahn, for his part, ruled his empire well, learning from the mistakes he made when ruling Outworld with an iron fist and causing more problems than he solved. He appointed each Kage from each shinobi village to be his advisors, in charge of running things in each region and informing him of what was going on. They still had shinobi villages to run, but instead of competing with one another, they were taught to collaborate, and shinobi from each village were hired for missions based on their skills. They still had the Chunin exams, but this time they were designed to show off the shinobi from each area to the emperor and demonstrate that their skills were still sharp. What about Shao Kahn's female companions? They were content to be His Majesty's wives, concubines, and even slaves, servants. To name a few, Tsunami, Koyuki, Hinata, Yugito, Mei, and Tamari were all married to the man. Anko remained his adoring concubine, but Shao Kahn was warming to the idea of marrying her because she had paid off her debts by this point, and it seemed only fitting that she marry him. Hannah was also a full-fledged concubine, attending to his every need in the clan she ran while always wearing a skimpy outfit similar to Shao Kahn's female slaves in Outworld. On a more surprising note, the Tsuchikage's granddaughter Kuretsuchi had spent the last few years getting to know Shao Kahn, and rumors of the two marrying in a few months to further connect the land formerly known as Earth Country to the Empire were circulating. Not only that, but Shao Kahn had suggested to the Sandame Tsuchikage that his successor be Suzumembachi, the Shodem Tsuchikage's granddaughter, to demonstrate his support for the once fallen clan. Onoki was naturally hesitant at first, but Shao Kahn pointed out to him that the addition of new blood from the Aburame clan was exactly what the Kamizuru clan needed, and having the Shodem Tsuchikage as his successor would reinforce this. Suzumembachi, for one, was overjoyed by the news and humbly thanked both men for the opportunity to sit in a seat that her clan had wished for someone since her grandfather. Tenten, who had escaped Konoha's fall and was plotting to kill Shao Kahn to avenge her village's defeat as well as Neji's death, was his only annoyance at the time. Kunoichi had vigorously trained herself with the weapons in the hopes of killing the man and those he loved. While Hinata had delivered the fatal blow to Neji, Tenten believed the Hyuga woman's lover was to blame for setting the stage for Konoha's fall and, ultimately, Neji's death. She was facing the man in question at the time when she snuck into the Emperor's castle and attempted to murder him while his guard was down. Tenten, sadly, was never one to relax his guard, and had eyes everywhere in his home. "You were foolish to come here, Tenten," Shao Kahn said to the bleeding and battered woman. Tenten had scattered weapons all over the floor after throwing them and being knocked away. Those she didn't throw, such as swords, spears, and other weapons that required one or both hands to be used, were knocked away during the fighting. There were various shinobi in the castle from all over the empire watching them intently, as well as the man's wives and concubines. "I will exact my vengeance on Konoha. Neji's sake. You made certain that everything I owned was destroyed," Tenten exclaimed, Shao Kahn smirking at her. "When Konoha attempted to use me as a weapon, it made its choice. When they attempted to kill me, they sealed their fate as destruction. Why should I have shown them mercy when they had no regard for their adversaries? Just because you say so? Or because the village was my home, and I should just accept their betrayal?" Tenten gritted her teeth in response to Shao Kahn. "Stop talking. I'm not interested in your reasoning. What I'm concerned about is the separation of your head from your body," Tenten exclaimed before drawing another sword and charging him with the intent to kill. Shao Kahn's power sent the woman flying back and onto her back with a simple flick of his wrist. Tenten glared up at him and reached for a nearby kunai, leaping into the air to stab him somewhere vital. Shao Kahn's hand grabbing the limb with the kunai and kneeing her hard in the stomach stopped the kunoichi formerly of Konoha. Tenten discovered that the force of the blow had caused her to puke and that she was having difficulty breathing soon after emptying her stomach. Tenten finally looked up to see Shao Kahn staring down at her, the Rinnegan eyes pulsing with unrivaled power. "You are now mine," Shao Kahn stated matter-of-factly. I will always despise you, Tenten spit venomously. Like I care, Shao Kahn countered before his hand went to her head and the woman screamed in pain before collapsing unconscious. Tenten now belonged to Shao Kahn, as evidenced by his seal and symbol on her back. Like most of the world, and perhaps one day, all of the world.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.